The stars outside the window of the lonely human outpost were silent. Michael sat alone at his workstation, his fingers moving slowly across broken tools. The outpost was far from Earth, far from any human colony. It was a forgotten station where damaged ships came for repair. Michael lived there almost like a ghost, fixing machines while silence filled his life. On this night, the silence broke. A loud alarm rang through the metal walls. Michael jumped from his chair, heart racing. The radar showed a small object falling from the dark sky. It was no ordinary debris. No broken machine drifting in space, it was an escape pod. The pod crashed into the barren ground near the outpost. Throwing dust into the air, Michael ran to the landing bay, his boots echoing against the steel floors. He opened the doors and stepped into the cold night. The air smelled of iron and dust. The pod lay twisted, smoke rising from its edges. He moved closer, his hands shaking. He had seen many wrecks, but never one like this. The pod door opened slowly with a painful hiss inside. Michael saw something that froze his breath. A small figure, no taller than a child of 8 years, lay curled up. Her skin was pale with a faint silver glow, her hair soft like threads of light. Her chest rose and fell weakly, each breath a struggle. Her eyes opened slightly, large, bright, not human, but filled with fear. She looked at him as if begging for something she could not speak. Michael's heart twisted. He had repaired machines but never saved a life, especially not the life of an alien child. He stepped inside the pod carefully. The little girl coughed, the air choking her lungs. Michael realized quickly. She could not breathe the same atmosphere he did. Her body was failing in the human station's environment. He pulled off his jacket and wrapped it around her. Her skin felt cold, trembling under his touch. As he lifted her gently, he noticed something shining around her neck. It was a collar, metallic and glowing with strange alien symbols. The collar was tight against her fragile skin. Michael frowned. Was it some kind of device or a cruel chain? Why would a child wear something like this? He carried her back to the outpost, rushing through narrow corridors. He laid her on a soft bed near his workstation. Her breathing was still shallow, every sound like a cry for help. Michael turned on his translator and aimed it at the glowing collar. The device hummed, reading the strange language etched on its surface. The symbols flickered across his screen, slowly forming into human words. When Michael saw the words, his hands went cold. His eyes filled with tears he did not expect. The collar said, "Property of the Galactic Orphanage, no home, no family." The words stabbed his heart like knives. He felt the room spin around him. This was not just an alien child, this was someone abandoned, unwanted, labeled as an object, not a person. Memories crashed into his mind. He remembered standing at the window of the Earth orphanage, watching families choose children. He remembered the nights when no one came for him. He remembered whispering to himself, "Why am I not wanted?" And now, here in front of him was another child, left alone in the same cruel way. Different world, same pain. The girl's hand moved slowly. Her small fingers wrapped around Michael's wrist with surprising strength. Her lips trembled as she tried to form a word. At first it was broken, almost silent, but then he heard it clearly. One single word in shaky English. "Help." Michael froze, tears running down his face. She was not supposed to know human language. She was not supposed to reach his heart this way. But that one word cut deeper than any blade in that moment. Michael knew his life would never be the same again. The alarms of the station beeped again in the distance. Warning of energy drain from the escape pod. But Michael did not care. He looked at the little girl and whispered, "I will help you." He held her hand tighter, and in the silence of the lonely station, a human and an alien child shared the same pain, neither knowing that their bond would challenge the entire galaxy. Michael could not move for a long time. The words on the alien girl's collar repeated again and again on his screen. Property of the Galactic Orphanage, no home, no family. His mind refused to accept it. Property, not child, no home, no family. It felt like a curse written in glowing letters. He sat beside the bed, watching the girl struggle to breathe. Her small chest lifted with effort, her lips turning pale. Every weak sound she made tore at his soul. Michael had lived alone for many years, but he had never seen loneliness carved into a living being so cruelly. The collar was not a gift, it was a chain. It screamed to the universe that she belonged nowhere. Michael wiped his eyes, but the tears kept coming. He had not cried in many years, not since he was a boy in the orphanage on Earth. The smell of dust and old blankets came back to him. The memory of small children waiting for families who never arrived. He had been one of them, forgotten, unwanted. He had promised himself never to feel that pain again, but here it was, returned in the form of a trembling alien child who whispered only one word: help. He reached for the collar, touching the cold metal carefully. The glow pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. Why would they put this on you? He whispered. The girl opened her large eyes, silver and bright with fear. Her lips moved again, forming broken sounds. Michael leaned closer, his breath caught. She whispered, cold. In a shaking voice, it was not perfect English, but it was clear enough to break him even more. Michael quickly adjusted the heating unit in the room. He placed another blanket over her. Her small body relaxed slightly, but the fear in her eyes did not leave. She kept holding his wrist as if she was afraid he would disappear. Michael felt her grip, weak but desperate. It reminded him of the nights when he had held his own blanket tightly. Wishing someone would come, no one had, but now, maybe he could be the one who stayed. He turned back to the translator, staring at the collar again. He tried scanning deeper into the code hidden in the metal. The symbol shifted, showing numbers, records, lists. The orphanage was not a home, it was a system. Thousands of children marked, tagged, stored like items in a warehouse. Michael's stomach turned. The galaxy prided itself on progress, on peace, but this was slavery dressed as care. His hands curled into fists. He wanted to tear the collar off right away. But the translator warned him. Removal without the key could kill her. He closed his eyes in frustration. She was trapped, chained by rules stronger than iron, and he was powerless, just one human engineer, forgotten on a lonely station. But then he looked at her again. She was watching him with eyes that trusted him completely. Even in her weakness, even in her fear, she believed he would not leave, and something inside him broke and rebuilt at the same time. Michael stood, searching his shelves for tools. He gathered parts, metal scraps, old circuits. If the galaxy would not help her, then he would. He began designing a small breathing device, something that could give her clean air while she recovered. His hands moved faster than his thoughts. The sound of tools filled the quiet room. Sparks danced as he cut and shaped wires. Every strike of his hand carried the same message. She will live. The girl's eyes followed him weakly. Sometimes she closed them, drifting close to sleep. Sometimes she whispered small words, fragments of sound that almost made sense. Michael answered softly, "You are safe. I will not leave you. You are not property." Each word felt heavy, as if he was saying them to himself as well. Hours passed. The station's systems beeped in warning, energy levels dropping. Unauthorized usage detected. Michael ignored it. He connected the final tube, adjusted the oxygen filter, and placed the small device over her mouth and nose. A soft hum filled the room. The girl inhaled sharply, then more steadily. Her chest rose with a smoother rhythm. Michael's body sagged with relief. He had fixed machines all his life, but this was the first time he had fixed a soul. But the relief did not last long. The station lights flickered. Red alarms glowing on the walls. An automated voice spoke. Unauthorized life sign detected. Galactic Patrol notified. Michael froze. His hands trembled as he looked at the girl. She was breathing better now, her eyes slowly closing into sleep. But outside, danger was coming. The galaxy would not forgive what he had just done. And he knew that soon they would arrive to take her away. Michael sat beside her bed, his hand resting over hers. The words from the collar still burned in his mind. No home, no family, he whispered to himself. Not anymore. Then he looked at the small alien child and said with quiet fire, "You are not property, you are not alone, and as long as I live, they will not take you." And in that moment, Michael was no longer just a lonely engineer. He was something more. He was a guardian, and the galaxy had no idea what storm he was about to bring. Michael sat in the glow of red alarms. The station's warning lights flashed across the metal walls like beating hearts. Unauthorized life sign detected, Galactic Patrol notified. The computer repeated the message again and again. Every word felt like a countdown. He knew what it meant. He had broken the law. Galactic law was clear. Humans were not allowed to interfere with alien children. The law claimed it was protection, but Michael knew better. It was control. Any child marked by the orphanage was considered government property, and anyone who interfered faced heavy punishment. For Michael, it could mean exile from Earth forever, or even death. He looked at the girl sleeping with the small breathing mask he had built. Her chest rose and fell smoothly now. Her face was still pale but calmer. The collar glowed faintly around her neck. The words burned into his mind again. Property of the Galactic Orphanage. Michael clenched his jaw. No child should ever wear such words. The translator beeped again. More information appeared. The collar contained a tracker. It was sending out her location to the nearest patrol. Michael's stomach twisted. He had saved her life, but now he had painted a target on both of them. He stood quickly, moving to the workbench. His hand searched through wires, chips, and broken circuits. He needed to block the signal. Every second mattered. The girl stirred in her sleep. Her small fingers twitched. Reaching for something, Michael paused, then gently placed his hand on hers. She calmed, as if even in sleep she trusted only his touch. That trust burned in his chest like fire. He would not let anyone take her. The station's systems beeped louder. Energy levels dropping fast. Michael ignored the warnings. He focused on the collar, trying to override its code. The translator screen filled with strange alien language. He worked line by line, forcing the device to shut down. Sweat ran down his forehead. The code was locked behind layers of encryption. It was not meant to be broken, but Michael had spent his whole life fixing things that were impossible. Suddenly, sparks flew. The collar beeped sharply. The girl gasped in her sleep. Michael pulled back, his heart racing. He had pushed too hard, too fast. If he tried again carelessly, the collar might release a shock. Or worse, it could stop her heart. Michael cursed under his breath. He could not risk her life. He had to think of another way. He stepped back, breathing heavily. The alarm still screamed around him, somewhere above the station. He knew a patrol ship was already changing course. Time was running out. He turned to the girl again. She was so small, her silver hair glowing faintly in the dim light. Her face looked peaceful now, but he knew it would not last. Soon, strangers would come and they would rip her away without mercy. Michael's chest tightened. He thought of his own childhood again. The way caretakers would call out names when families arrived. How his name was never called. How he had stood at the window for hours, hoping, waiting, until hope itself became too heavy to carry. That pain had shaped his life. But looking at her now, he realized something. He could not let her feel that same emptiness. Not while he was alive. He turned to his storage unit, pulling out hidden supplies. A small pack of emergency rations, a portable oxygen filter, a communicator he had long kept disabled. If he could not remove the collar, maybe he could run. Hide her somewhere the patrol would not find. The idea was dangerous, but what choice did he have? The computer voice echoed again. Galactic patrol ship detected. Arrival in 20 minutes. Michael froze. 20 minutes. That was all he had. His hands shook, but his mind sharpened. He had survived alone on this forgotten outpost for years. Now he would use every skill he had, not for himself, but for her. He set the communicator aside, choosing silence over contact. No one could know what he was doing. He packed the rations and oxygen into a small satchel. The girl stirred again, her eyes opening slightly. Her silver gaze locked on him. Tired but aware, Michael knelt beside her. You need to be strong, he whispered. Her lips trembled, forming another word. Stay, she whispered softly. Michael's throat tightened. He nodded. I will. The station shuddered suddenly. Through the window, Michael saw lights in the distance. Bright engines cutting through the darkness of space. The Galactic patrol ship. It was coming closer, faster. Michael felt his heart pound like a drum. This was it. The law said he had no right to keep her. But his soul said otherwise. This was more than defiance. This was survival. Not just for her, but for him too. He stood tall. The alarm still screaming, he whispered to himself. This is a forbidden act. But I don't care. He looked at the girl, her eyes closing again in trust. And he made his choice. If the galaxy wanted to take her, they would have to go through him first. And as the patrol ship descended toward the station, Michael's lonely outpost was no longer just a repair bay. It was the beginning of a battle between law and love. Between the cold rules of the galaxy and the burning heart of one human. The countdown ticked lower. 15 minutes, 10. Michael held the girl's hand tightly and whispered, They will come. But they will not win. The ground shook as the Galactic patrol ship landed outside the lonely outpost. Its engines roared like thunder, shaking loose dust from the ceiling. Michael stood frozen at the window. watching the bright blue light sweep across the barren land. The ship was sleek, silver and armed, its insignia glowing like fire in the night. He knew the sound well. It was the sound of law, the sound of chains, the sound of everything he hated. The station's automated voice announced, "Galactic Patrol docking in progress." Michael's stomach twisted. He had only minutes left. He turned back to the bed where the alien girl lay, her breathing steady with the mask he had built. She looked so small under the blanket, so fragile, so innocent. Her silver hair shimmered faintly, her collar glowing like a cruel reminder of her fate. Michael moved quickly, hiding the satchel of rations and tools beneath the bed. He disabled the oxygen device's alarm so it would not draw attention. But no matter how much he prepared, his heart would not calm. The patrol was not coming for negotiation. They were coming to take her. The station doors opened with a loud hiss. Heavy boots clanged against the metal floor. Michael's blood ran cold as voices echoed down the corridor. "Scan every section," a deep voice ordered. The signal came from here. Their footsteps were sharp. Precise, trained hunters in uniform, predators of the law. Michael stood by the bed, his fists clenched. The girl stirred, sensing danger. Her eyes opened slowly, fear rushing back into them. She reached for Michael's hand, her grip weak but desperate. Michael bent down and whispered, "Stay quiet, no matter what." She nodded faintly, but her lips trembled as if a scream was trapped inside. The first shadow appeared in the doorway. A tall figure in dark armor stepped forward. Holding a scanner in one hand, the light swept across the room, pausing at the girl's shape under the blanket. The officer's voice was cold. "Human, we know you are hiding something." Michael's throat tightened. He wanted to lie, but the truth was already in their eyes. The officer stepped closer, his weapon visible at his side. "Hand over the orphan," he demanded. "She is not yours to keep." Michael's voice shook but did not break. "She is not property," he said. "She is a child." The officer sneered, his scanner beeping as it locked on the caller's signal. "Property of the Galactic Orphanage," he replied flatly. "The law is clear, human. You are not authorized to interfere." Michael's fist trembled. He thought of his own childhood, of the label that had followed him everywhere, orphan, and he saw that same wound written on the collar of the girl. The officer moved to take her. Michael stepped in front of the bed, his body blocking the way. "You'll have to go through me," he said firmly. The officer raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "You dare resist the law?" Michael's heart pounded. Fear twisted inside him, but something stronger pushed against it. The girl's small fingers still held his wrist, and that touch gave him strength. He was not just fighting for her. He was fighting for the child he once was. The officer lifted his weapon, the barrel glowing with blue light. The hum filled the room like death's whisper. Michael swallowed hard. He had no weapon, no armor, no chance in a fight. But still he refused to move, his voice cracked with fury. "You call yourselves protectors, but you treat children like cages. Tell me, does your law know the meaning of mercy?" The officer's eyes narrowed. "Mercy is weakness," he said coldly. "Order keeps the galaxy alive, and orphans are safer in our care than in your hands." Michael's heart burned with rage. He wanted to scream, but before he could, something strange happened. The girl's collar began to glow brighter. The symbols pulsed with sharp light. Then suddenly, a hologram burst into the air above her. The officers froze, their scanners flickering in confusion. Michael's eyes widened as words and images appeared. Hidden data had been unlocked. The hologram showed her face, her records, but also something more. A secret that no one expected. The officer lowered his weapon slightly, shocked. This is not possible," he muttered. Michael's heart pounded as he stared at the projection. It revealed more than just her orphan status. It revealed something that would shake everything he believed about her. The girl sat up weakly, her silver eyes glowing in the light. She looked at Michael, her lips trembling, and in a voice stronger than before she whispered one word, "Papa." The room fell silent. The officers stood frozen. Michael's heart cracked open. Tears blurred his vision as he reached for her hand. The word echoed in his chest like thunder. Papa. She had chosen him. Not the law, not the galaxy, him, and in that single word, Michael knew the battle had only begun. The truth inside that hologram would change everything. And now neither he nor the galaxy could ever go back. The room glowed with the strange hologram. Symbols and words spun in the air like living light. The galactic patrol officers stepped back, their scanners buzzing with error codes. Michael stood frozen, his hand clutching the little girl's as if she might vanish if he let go. Her small voice still echoed in his mind. Papa. He could not understand how she knew that word, how she chose it for him, but deep inside, his heart had already accepted it. She was calling him not because of blood, but because of trust, because in this cold galaxy, he was the first to treat her as more than property. The hologram shifted again. Lines of alien text mixed with human code. The officers looked at each other, confusion in their eyes. This is restricted data, one of them muttered. It should not be inside a child's collar. Michael squinted at the light, his translator struggling to keep up. Then the words appeared in simple English across the screen. Subject, hybrid project, DNA origin, human and Alari, classification, failed experiment, transfer to orphanage registry. Michael's breath caught in his throat. Human and alien, a hybrid. He turned to the girl, her silver eyes shining softly, her small chest rising with each fragile breath. She was not just another orphan. She was part human, part of him, part of Earth, part of everything he thought he had left behind. The officers stiffened. This child is an experiment, the leader said, his voice sharp. She is not meant to exist outside the orphanage system. Michael's rage boiled over. Not meant to exist, he spat. She is alive, she breathes, she feels. She speaks. She called me Papa. Does that sound like an experiment to you? The officer raised his weapon again. It does not matter what she says, the law is clear. Hybrids are dangerous. Michael stepped closer, fury burning in his eyes. Dangerous to who? He demanded. Dangerous to your control, dangerous because she proves we are not so different. The girl tugged at his sleeve weakly. Michael turned to her, kneeling beside the bed. Her lips moved again, forming broken words. No cage, she whispered. No cage, Papa. Michael's chest tightened until he could barely breathe. Her words were simple, but their meaning was sharp as a blade. She remembered she had been kept in a cage, treated like an object, not a child. He reached for her hand and held it tight. You'll never go back to a cage, he promised softly. The hologram flickered again, showing more records. Images of sterile labs, scientists in masks, children with collars sitting silently in rows. Michael's stomach twisted. He wanted to look away, but he forced himself to see. This was the truth the galaxy had hidden. This was why the law existed. Not to protect children, but to hide them. The officers looked uneasy now. One of them whispered to the commander, if this data spreads, it will damage the orphanage's reputation. Michael caught the words, his anger rising. You're worried about reputation, he shouted. Not about the children you've thrown away like broken machines. His voice cracked, tears burning in his eyes. You call them failed experiments, but they are children. They laugh, they cry. They want to be held. They deserve more than chains and numbers. The commander scowled. You speak out of emotion. Human. Law is stronger than your tears. Michael wiped his face and stepped in front of the girl again. Maybe so, he said firmly, but humanity is stronger than your law. The air grew tense, the officers shifted. Their weapons raised, Michael stood tall, shielding the girl with his body. He had nothing but his bare hands, yet he felt no fear. Because for the first time in his life, he had something worth dying for. The girl's collar glowed brighter, reacting to her heartbeat. Suddenly, a new message appeared in the hologram. It was not alien, not scientific, but personal. If you are reading this, protect her. She is hope, not failure. Michael's breath caught. The officers froze, unsure what to do. Hope. The word hung in the air like a star in the dark. Michael looked down at her, tears blurring his vision. She was hope not just for him, but maybe for the entire galaxy. A bridge between species, proof that love and life could cross any border, and the galaxy wanted to erase her. He clenched his fists, rage and love burning together inside him. No one will take her, he said quietly. No one. The commander raised his weapon higher, his voice hard. You leave us no choice. Human, you will be punished for defying the law. Michael did not move. He placed his hand on the girl's shoulder gently. If they want you, they'll have to go through me, he whispered. The girl's silver eyes shone with tears. She whispered again, soft but clear. Papa. The officers hesitated. The commander's finger hovered on the trigger. The air was heavy with silence. Michael's heart pounded. But he did not flinch. He had faced loneliness. He had faced emptiness. Now he would face death if it meant saving her. The hologram flickered one last time. It showed a symbol neither Michael nor the officers recognized. A star burning inside two hands, then it vanished, leaving only silence. The commander lowered his weapon slightly, his face twisted with conflict. Michael held the girl close, his voice steady. She is not your property. She is my family. And in that moment, the law of the galaxy cracked under the weight of a single human's love. But outside, the storm of consequences was only beginning. The room was still glowing faintly from the vanished hologram. The silence felt heavy, like the air itself was holding its breath. Michael stood protectively in front of the alien girl. Her small frame trembled under the blanket, her silver eyes wide with fear, but she did not let go of his hand. The words she had spoken still echoed in his heart. Papa, the Galactic Patrol officers looked shaken. The hidden message had rattled them more than Michael's defiance ever could. Hope, not failure. A hybrid child, a secret the galaxy had buried. Now revealed in the middle of a lonely outpost, Michael's translator beeped again. Decoding fragments still stored inside the collar. More files appeared, broken but readable. Michael's eyes widened as the words formed on the screen. Hybrid program created to test compatibility between humans and Aelari. Subject was born in hidden facility. Concealed from public knowledge. Rejected by project leaders. Transferred to orphanage system for disposal. Michael's stomach turned. Disposal. They had not only rejected her, they had planned to erase her existence. She was not just abandoned. She had been sentenced to vanish before she could even live. Michael looked at her, tears burning his eyes. She blinked slowly, her lips forming broken words. No vanish, she whispered, her voice trembling. Michael squeezed her hand tight. No vanish, he said firmly. You are here, you are alive, and you will stay. The officers shifted uncomfortably. One of them muttered, If this spreads, people will question the orphanage system. Another whispered back, If hybrids exist, it means the laws were built on lies. Michael caught every word. His anger deepened. You hide children in cages to protect your lies, he said, his voice sharp. You fear them because they prove that connection is stronger than control. The commander raised his weapon again, but his hand shook slightly this time. You don't understand what you're dealing with, he snapped. Hybrids are unstable, dangerous. Michael stepped forward, his voice like steel. She is not dangerous. She is a child. She is proof that humans and aliens are not enemies. She is proof that we are family. The girl tugged at Michael's sleeve. Her eyes shimmered, her lips forming a single word. Why, she whispered softly. Michael's heart broke. Why had they done this to her? Why had they labeled her as property? Why had they denied her love? Michael knelt beside her, brushing silver strands of hair from her face. Because they are afraid, he said gently. They fear what you are. Because you show them something they don't want to admit. That we belong together. The girl blinked slowly, her eyes filling with tears, but for the first time, there was also a spark of strength in them. Michael saw it, and his heart swelled with pride. She was fragile, yes, but she was not broken. She was stronger than they realized, stronger than the galaxy believed. The commander growled, frustrated. This is irrelevant. The law is the law. She will be taken to the orphanage immediately. Michael stood tall, his body tense with fury. No, he said firmly. She is not going anywhere. The commander's face darkened. You would risk your life for a failed experiment. Michael's voice thundered back. She is not a failure, she is the future. The officers lifted their weapons. The tension filled the room like a storm. Michael's pulse pounded in his ears. He was ready to fight with his bare hands if he had to. But before anyone could move, the collar glowed again. A surge of light filled the room. Brighter than before, the hologram returned. But this time it was different. Instead of cold data, an image appeared. A woman's face, tired but kind, her features were human. But her eyes glowed silver like the girl's. Michael's breath caught. The girl gasped, whispering. Mama, the hologram spoke. The voice soft but steady. If you are seeing this, it means I have failed to protect her. She is my child, born of two worlds, human and Aelari. She is not a weapon, not an experiment, she is hope. Please, whoever finds her, give her the love I could not. The hologram flickered. Fading, the girl reached toward the image desperately. But then it was gone, leaving only silence. Tears streamed down Michael's face. The truth hit him like a storm. She was not just any hybrid. She was the daughter of a human mother and an alien father. A child born from love, hidden by fear. The officers stood in stunned silence. Their scanners were useless. Their laws suddenly fragile. Michael looked at the girl. His heart breaking and healing at the same time, he whispered softly, "You are not alone anymore. You are not failure. You are family." The girl pressed her forehead against his chest, whispering again, "Papa." The commander's voice cut through the moment, harsh and cold. "This changes nothing," he growled. "She still belongs to the orphanage." Michael turned, fury blazing in his eyes. "This changes everything," he said. "You can't erase the truth now." The officers aimed their weapons again. Michael shielded the girl with his body. He had no plan, no weapon, no guarantee, but he had a promise. A promise to protect her no matter what, and he would keep it, even if the entire galaxy stood against him. Outside, the patrol ship's engines rumbled, preparing for something bigger. Reinforcements were being called. The war for one child's future had begun. The patrol ship outside hummed like a beast ready to strike. The floor of the outpost vibrated with the weight of its engines. Inside, the room glowed red with warning lights. Michael stood tall, his body shielding the small alien girl who clung to his arm. The galactic patrol officers aimed their weapons, their faces hard with duty but uneasy with doubt. The girl's collar still shimmered faintly, the last trace of her mother's message lingering in Michael's mind. "She is not a weapon, she is hope." Those words cut deeper than any order. Those words gave him the strength to stand. Even as fear burned in his chest, the commander stepped forward, his voice cold as steel. "You have broken the law. Human. You have sheltered forbidden life, tampered with restricted technology, and defied the orphanage system." He raised his weapon, the barrel glowing with deadly light. "The penalty is death." Michael's pulse thundered in his ears. But he did not move. He held the girl closer, his eyes blazing with fire. "Then kill me," he said, his voice steady, "because I will never let you take her." The officers hesitated, their fingers tightening on triggers, but none of them fired. The silence stretched like a wire ready to snap. Michael's defiance was more powerful than any weapon in the room, because in his eyes they saw something they could not crush. "Love." The girl looked up at him, tears shimmering in her silver eyes. She whispered again, her voice stronger this time. "Papa." Michael's heart cracked open. That single word erased all fear. He was no longer a lonely engineer. He was a father, and no law, no weapon, no galaxy could take that from him. The commander growled, stepping closer. "Do not make this harder than it has to be," he warned. Michael shook his head. "You don't understand," he said softly. "This is not about law, this is about humanity. You see a failed experiment? I see a child who deserves to live. You see property. I see family." The officers shifted uneasily, doubt growing in their eyes. The truth was spreading like cracks in stone. Michael pressed on, his voice rising. "You call her dangerous? But tell me, what danger does a child pose except to your lies? Why are you afraid of her?" "Because she proves the galaxy is not as divided as you want it to be." The girl tugged at Michael's sleeve, her voice trembling. "No cage, Papa." Michael nodded firmly, his voice breaking with emotion. "No cage," he promised. "Not while I live." The commander raised his weapon higher, furious at the hesitation of his men. "If you will not surrender her, then you will die with her," he shouted. He prepared to fire, but before he could, something unexpected happened. The girl's collar glowed brighter than ever before. The hologram reactivated on its own, blasting the room with light. But this time it was not data or words, it was energy. A surge of pure power erupted from the collar. The officers staggered back, shielding their faces. Michael held the girl close, bracing himself against the shock. The hologram's light formed a symbol in the air, a star inside two hands glowing brighter and brighter. The commander's weapon powered down, its circuits fried by the surge. The other officers dropped their scanners, sparks flying from their belts. The girl's small body trembled, her silver eyes glowing fiercely. She was not attacking, not fighting, she was simply being. Her existence itself was power, not destruction, but life. Michael realized the truth in that moment. She was never meant to be a weapon. She was meant to be proof that two worlds could create something beautiful. proof that love was stronger than fear. The galaxy had called her failure, but she was hope made flesh. The officers stood frozen, their weapons useless. The commander stared at the glowing child, his face pale with disbelief. This should not be possible, he muttered. Michael stood tall, holding her close, his voice firm. It is possible. Because she is alive. Because she is not property. Not failure. She is my daughter, the girl leaned against him, whispering softly, Papa, stay. Michael's chest ached with love and fire. I will stay, he whispered, always. The energy faded, the collar dimming until only faint light remained. The room was silent except for the sound of the girl's breathing. The officers lowered their weapons slowly, their faces filled with conflict. The commander clenched his fists. But even he could not deny what he had seen. The law had told them hybrids were dangerous, unstable, worthless, but here she was, alive, fragile, innocent, and filled with light. Michael's voice cut through the silence. Steady and unshaken. You came here to enforce law, he said. But what you saw is truth. You can kill me, but the truth will live, and one day, it will spread across the stars. The commander's hand shook, torn between duty and the weight of what he had witnessed. Finally, he lowered his weapon with a hiss of anger. This is not over, human, he said. The galaxy will come for you, and for her. Michael's eyes burned with fire as he pulled the girl closer. Then let them come, he said quietly. I will be ready. The officers turned, retreating toward the docking bay, their silence louder than words. The commander's threat lingered in the air, but Michael did not care. He looked down at the girl in his arms, her silver eyes gazing back at him with trust. For the first time in his life, he was not alone. For the first time in her life, she was not property. They were family. The engines of the patrol ship roared as it lifted into the sky. But inside the lonely outpost, a new sound filled the silence, the sound of hope. The sound of a father's promise, Michael whispered to her one last time. His voice steady and unbreakable. You are not property. You are not failure. You are my daughter, and I will protect you until my last breath. And as the stars burned brightly outside, a single human and a single child stood together against the galaxy, and the galaxy would never be the same again.